This is my review for Zombie Army Trilogy for Nintendo Switch. I picked this up used for about $20, maybe $25, and I found it to be a surprising value. It's kind of a Left 4 Dead style game. It's 1 to 4 player co-op shooter, and if you have 4 players, it obviously adapts the difficulty up and increases the number of zombies. There are different types of enemies. There are enemies with guns. There are skeletons. There are skeletons are obviously like a high damage, but also like low durability. So just a kick or a melee will destroy them right away. Whereas regular zombies take 2 to 3 hits depending on the weapons. There are sniper type weapons. Everybody carries 3. You carry like a sniper type weapon, like a rifle. Carry something like a shotgun or some sort of like very fast machine gun, and then you also carry a backup pistol, and you also have different types of explosives. You have your standard impact grenades, you have landmines, you have tripwires, you have all kinds of different kinds of grenades you can use. There's a lot of variance to this game. I played through one section of one campaign in about an hour. So if the math checks out and they're all about the same, there is a boss at the end of each subsection, and there are 5 subsections to each chapter. There are 3 chapters, that's why it's called a trilogy. It's not 3 separate games, but there are 3 acts to the same game. But there are 3 stories, essentially. There are 8 playable characters that you can pick from. Only 4 players at a time can play, but with the 8 different characters, everybody has their own little backstory and their own voice lines and their own interactions, as well as I think their own like specialties and that kind of thing. So there's quite a bit to be done in Zombie Army Trilogy. I've gone on a little too long about that. Let's talk about the graphics. They're surprisingly good for being on Switch. I was surprised at the depth. It was a little bit low here and there, but overall, I think for a first-person shooter, technically a third-person shooter, it was pretty decent. There was a little bit of fog that kind of limited my visibility, and I think that was intentional, but it just added to the atmosphere of the game, kind of like Silent Hill in that regard. So I'm going to go ahead and give the graphics of Zombie Army Trilogy an 8. Gameplay-wise, like I said, there's a lot to do. There's probably 15 hours worth of campaign if you just want to play solo player zombie. There's also multiplayer modes, very Left 4 Dead. There is a split-screen local multiplayer option. Then there's also online multiplayer option with private lobbies, different rooms. There's also horde modes where you could just survive as long as you possibly can. There's tons to do in this game. Gameplay is pretty good. The bosses are tough. They're bullet sponges. You have to sit there and kind of lure them around and kind of bait them and shoot and then move and shoot and move. And then there are waves of zombies where you could just kind of like plow through them. So the gameplay does get repetitive a little bit because, you know, it's a standard zombie shooter. But if you enjoy that kind of thing, it's good. I'm going to go ahead and give gameplay probably a 7. Audio-wise, the music is pretty decent. The music tells you when there's bosses active, when there's zombies active, and when there's not. The music it's okay. It's better than average. It's mediocre. The explosions sound good. The zombies all sound pretty generic. They all sound the same. They have very low tone of voice. You don't hear different things. There are some zombies that are like fast and exploding, you know, suicide bomber style zombies. They do make a slightly different sound so that you know they're coming, but everybody else makes kind of the same sound, at least so far that I've played. So I'm going to go ahead and give audio probably also a 7. Story-wise, it's actually really good. There's a lot of voice acting all the way through. When you are at the character select screen, there is a voice that narrates who your character is, what they're about, what their backstory is, and it narrates it out loud. There's a lot of story. There's a lot of lore. There are a cinema sequence at the very beginning explaining to you about Adolf Hitler and how he decided to enact his zombie plan because he was losing the war. There's a storyline there, and your missions make sense. You are supposed to go through this village to find a working vehicle so that you can get out of the village. The objectives make sense. Everything seems to click. I feel like it feels good. I'm going to give the story probably a 7.5. 7.5. It's pretty good. It's your basic story for a zombie survival game. Very Left 4 Dead, like I said. If you've played World War Z or Left 4 Dead, this is exactly that kind of game you're looking for, except it's on Switch. It looks like here it does say 1 to 2 players local and 1 to 2 players in tabletop mode as well. So it's only 2-player co-op in person, but up to 4 players online. So I'm sure I could do 2 players on my console and then 2 players on someone else's console. So I take that back. I might actually deduct some points from gameplay. Let's bring gameplay. Nah, I think 2-player split screen is pretty good for the Switch. I don't think you'd want to be doing it for that'd be kind of much. But overall, pretty decent. It says on the box, gut-wrenching 1 to 4 player action, but when you look at the back, it says here 2 to 4 local play, 2 to 4 online play. But it says here 1 to 2 with a TV. I'm not sure what to make of it because it's a little weird. It says 1 to 2, 1 to 2, but then down here it has a little note about being 2 to 4 local play. So, not sure. Anyway, I'm gonna leave the score the same. Overall, 7.37. So I can give it probably a 7.5. I could round up to that. For a third-person zombie-based shooter for the Switch, it's pretty decent.